back, pupils. Now I hope that since our last lesson that you are quite excited to learn some more. So our last lesson was based on prediction or making predictions. Let's recap some facts on prediction. A prediction is a statement about what someone thinks will happen in the future. We also said that when predicting, you are actually making guesses based on clues that you get from the text or from a video or an image. You know, sometimes you look at a movie and you say, I wonder what will happen. Oh, I think this will happen. That's making a prediction. Now, predictions can also be done before you actually read the direct text. It can be done during the reading activity, or as I was explaining just now, when you're looking at the video, it can also be done during the reading or looking at the video. Then it can also be done at the end of the reading or looking at your video. After making predictions, it is very important for you to read back and to verify if the predictions you made were actually correct. Or maybe they were close. Sometimes you could be way off track and your predictions could be entirely wrong. So reading over the text or looking back at the video or continuing to look at the video will help you to verify whether your predictions were correct. Predictions, they help you to stay engaged with the passage, or as you are doing the exercise, it keeps your mind active. Okay, boys and girls, let's get ready to see all that you know and what new we can learn about our topic for today. Now, today we will be looking at retelling stories. What is it to retell a story? Retelling involves oral reconstruction of a story. And what do I mean about reconstruction? Are we reorganizing? We are simply telling over the story. It requires activating knowledge of how stories work and applying it to the new reading. So you have a story and you read it already. Now you want to share what you have read with someone. There you are actually preparing to retell the story, but you must understand how the story would have happened so that you could do the retelling accurately. Now, when we are retelling, we engage in putting things in order and summarizing the information. Also, what we do is make inferences, meaning that we try to explain or give that hidden meaning. Maybe it wasn't said directly in the story that we read, but from the clues that they give, we try to explain what we understood. Now, when we retell a story, we include the following. We make sure that we give information on the setting, and the setting we know has to do with the time and the place. We give information on the characters, which are the people or animals in the stories, or maybe objects that were involved in the story. In retelling also, we must give information on the problem or the high point of the story. What was the challenge the characters had or the problem they had to solve? Now, the happenings there, we talk about the events. And then you ensure that it is done in the order of beginning, middle, and end. Remember, when you're also retelling, the solution is very important. How did the story end? How did the experience end? So these are some of the key points you want to keep in mind when you are retelling. They must all be included. Now, sometimes when we are retelling a story, it might not be the entire story that we are retelling. And for this reason, there are 3 different types of retelling. The first type of retelling we have is simple retelling. In this type of retelling, we identify and retell the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story in that order. We describe the setting, we identify the problem and the resolution of that problem. Then we have more complete retelling. Here we ensure we identify and retell events and facts in absolute sequence, or we say in direct sequence. We also make inferences to fill in the missing information, things that you would have tried to guess or tried to explain based on what you were given in the text. In complete retelling, we also try to identify and retell causes of the actions or events in the story. And we have most complete retelling. In this type of retelling, we identify and retell a sequence of actions or events. Again, we make inferences to account for events or actions, and we also make an evaluation of the story. You say how you think the story was, how you think it ended. Was it the right way? Weren't you in agreement with it? This is most complete retelling. So you're infusing some of what you're thinking in the retelling process. Now, when retelling a story, there are some key words such as first, then, after, next, and finally. These are words that we keep in mind to use so that we help to keep the sequence when we are retelling the story. Remember, you retell a story to someone so that they could make sense or understand what you have read because they did not get the opportunity to read it themselves. So in retelling, you are actually trying to help that person to gain knowledge about a text or about an event for which they were not involved. Now here's a simple rhyme to help us remember what we have to include when we are retelling a story. Retell the story. When I read a story, it has more than one part. The title and the author are just where I start. The setting, characters, and problems are story parts as well. Beginning, middle, end, and solution all make it easy to retell. Take some time and read that rhyme. Remember, this rhyme helps you to remember what and how you should go about retelling stories. Now, let's look at this story and try to retell it in our own words. And this is also very important for you to remember. When you are retelling, you do not have to use the exact words that were given to you. You have a chance to use your own words and your own interpretation, but you must stay very close to the true meaning of the story. Let's look at this. Tom and Bill were walking to school. They passed over a bridge, as they did every day. But on that day, the river was full. The water was clear and the sun was shining in a cloudless sky. Tom said, "Let's go fishing." Billy wasn't so sure. "We have a test today. Shouldn't we go to class?" "Nonsense," said Tom. "You only live once. A day like this won't come along again." Billy wasn't sure this was a good idea, but suddenly a fish jumped the sparkling water. He decided Tom was right. They should definitely skip class on such a nice day. Now, how can we retell this story? Remember, we should include the setting, the character, the problem, and the solution in our retelling. And you don't have to give word for word. You are summarizing, if we can say. You are giving the main details of the story. So what happened? You're now in class and you want to say what exactly happened in this story. Let's see how we can retell this. Tom and Bill were walking to school on a beautiful day. Tom thought they should go fishing. Billy thought they should go to school because they had a test. Tom thought it would be a shame to waste the day. And after everything, Billy finally agreed, and so they went to go and fish. Now, in that short retelling of that story, could you identify the setting? It was a beautiful day, yes. And where were they? They were walking to school. So that details from the original story was kept in the retelling of the story. Were you able or are you able to identify the characters? Who were the characters in the original story? Tom and Bill. And here we see in the retelling version of the story, our characters are mentioned. We see Tom and we see Bill. What was the problem? Well, Tom wanted to go fishing, but Bill thought that they should go to school. Was that mentioned in the retelling? Yes. Bill thought they should go to school. See that? Now, what about the solution? What happened in the end? Bill finally agreed and he went along with Tom. So they went and they caught some fishes. Now that's the ending of the retelling. Were you able again to identify the setting, the character, the problem, and the solution? Yes, I am sure that you were able to do that. So retelling actually shortens the story, but you try to maintain these main elements in your retelling version of the story. Now here I have a very familiar story, and it's time for you to do some reading and retelling of your own. Let's read the story together, and then you will take some time and come up with your retelling version. This story is The Lion and the Mouse. A lion lay asleep in a forest. A little mouse ran across the lion's nose. The lion woke up from his nap. He was angry with the mouse. "Leave me," said the poor mouse. "Please let me go, and someday I will surely help you." The lion smiled to think that a small mouse could ever help him. But he was kind, and finally he let the mouse go. Some days later, the lion was caught in a net. He roared, asking someone to set him free. The mouse heard the lion's voice and quickly found the lion. She nibbled on the rope until it broke. The lion was free. "Now you see that even a small mouse can help a big lion," said the mouse. All right, so let's go over our retelling. I will tell you mine again, and you will tell yours to a family or your friends. One day, as a lion was sleeping in the forest, a mouse ran over the lion's nose. This woke the lion up, and he got angry. The mouse begged him to let him go, saying that one day he, the mouse, can help him. The lion smiled and let him go because he knew that the mouse was too small to be of any help to him. Days later, the lion was caught in a net. He roared loudly and the mouse heard him. The mouse bit through the net and set the lion free. Did your retelling sound anything like that? Nice work. I think that you are getting the idea of how to retell a story. And I know some of you know very well how to retell stories already. Now let's do our recap for this session. What have we learned about retelling? So far, we have learned that retelling involves oral reconstructing a story. It requires activating knowledge of how stories work and applying it to the new reading. Now, when we are retelling, we are reordering and summarizing information, and on some levels, we make inferences. When we do story retelling, we try to ensure that we include the elements of story: setting, characters, the problem, the events, and the solution. We also learned that there are 3 different types of retelling. We have simple retelling, more complete retelling, and most complete retelling. The key words or words that we should keep in mind when retelling are first, then, after, next, finally. And we have some more, but these are some of the basic words that we can use to make retelling easier. Now that we have learned more about retelling stories, you can try to retell a friend or someone at home. Think of a story you have read or a movie that you have seen and retell that to one of them at home. Now that's all on the literacy ladder for today. So I'll see you next time.